Vincent Hall, and welcome to another episode of our Vincent Hall Featured Artist Series. Today, we're going to get a chance to learn more about Mr. John Gardenier. John joined our photo class about a year and a half ago and has been really active in pursuing new images and finding extremely unique ways of expressing his creativity. As you'll get to hear in the interview, John has a very varied and exciting career in all different fields, ranging from statistics and philosophy to a Navy career. And as a true Yale grad guy, he will explain to you how he got to Yale and his journey through life, and especially what leads him to his unique perspective in the photographic arts. So without further ado, Mr. John Gardenier. Thank you again, John, for agreeing to be this week's featured artist. I know everyone's excited to hear more about you and your work, so I will let you give us an introduction to John.
Thank you very much, Mel. About a year ago, Terry, my wife, and I traveled to Yale for my 60th class reunion. That involved a book of short essays from each member of the class. I opened my essay with this sentence: "Over the course of my professional career, I have functioned successfully as a naval intelligence officer, lawyer, scientist, engineer, statistician, research ethicist, and an Indian chief." Now, I spent the rest of the essay justifying that sentence. Here, I will simply say, that is all strange, but true. It wasn't that I couldn't keep a job. I just couldn't say no when I was asked to do something extra, even in a totally different field than I was employed in. But if I was asked to do something that was really interesting, I couldn't say no, and I did it. Now, let's switch to my childhood. My life began in South Portland, Maine, in a far from affluent laborers' neighborhood. Nonetheless, we had a nice yard with fruit trees, a victory garden, and even a picket fence. My initial guidance came primarily from my very strict Danish grandmother, because my father and mother both worked full-time throughout my childhood and adolescence. Raised in the Depression, Mom and Dad had trouble enough getting a high school education. Any advanced education was totally out of the question, despite their high intelligence. So when I came along to compensate, the three of them drummed into me a obligation that I had to fulfill. I had not only to go to college, but it was absolutely essential that I go to Harvard or Yale, Harvard or Yale, Harvard or Yale. Drummed into me from the time I was 5 years old. Now, that would seem to be impossible from the circumstances where I started, but they gave me 3 rules to make it possible for me to do that. Rule number 1, be a good boy. Rule number 2, do what you are told. Rule number 3, work hard. Well, it turns out it was not quite that simple. It took one more word: work extremely hard.
Okay.
But I obeyed consistently, and success followed. The story is somewhat different with my experience with photography. I started out as a child with Kodak Brownie cameras, and the rule there was point and shoot. And that's all I knew until after I was in the Navy. Then naval intelligence taught me photography, but they taught me to ignore all artistic considerations in the photography and concentrate entirely on technical precision to capture images that might prove to be useful in the Cold War. That is not exactly what Mel emphasizes in the classes here at Vinson Hall Art Center, by the way. Ever since then, I have been trying to improve my amateur pictures for years. Once I even went so far as to buy a very expensive Nikon camera with multiple lenses, including zoom lenses. Unfortunately, the results were disappointing. My only hope that I might have some talent came as a surprise when I saw the images from my Samsung Galaxy 9 cell phone purchased about a year ago. The amazing raw photo quality was a new experience for me, and the device even came with an elementary photo editing capability. But I still needed instruction. As you may have seen in a previous Art Center video, my wife Terry, who has exceptional artistic talent, told me how delighted she was with her drawing and painting classes here at Vinson Hall. Not me, I thought. I suppose that I could learn photography quicker and at my own pace by studying great courses videos taught by the renowned National Geographic ultra professional visitor Joel Santore.
Wow.
No question, the guy is great.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, beside assuring that I understood the fundamental skills, he also taught me a huge amount of material I had no interest in whatsoever. Worse yet, it turns out that he and I have noticeably different eyes for color, composition, and visual impact. At this point, having nothing to lose after doing everything wrong, I finally did the right thing and started beginning photography with Mel in the Vinson Hall Art Center. She focuses on making each artist more skillful in reaching their own personal goals rather than meeting some supposed standard of excellence. Even more importantly, she quickly demonstrated that great photography merely starts with clicking the shutter on a camera. A merely promising image can become vastly superior through diligent and skillful editing with Adobe Photoshop. I am now hooked for life, and I'm just starting to learn how to get photo results that both achieve my own goals and delight my family.
Oh.
My photographic art is intended to be unusual, I gotta warn you. Even strange or weird, but sometimes beautiful. For example, when we travel, we see some sights that are very familiar from magazines, postcards, or travel brochures. I want something at least a little different, sometimes so different it may be considered weird, but in every case, there is a story that goes with it. So now to the photographs. Let us start with a view we have all seen, the stalagmite organ in Luray Caverns. I used to think there was no way to shoot it properly. In the cave context, it is relatively too tiny to be distinct. If you get close enough to make it larger, you get blocked by the throng of people directly in front of it.
Mm.
My solution is to cheat with Adobe Photoshop. I enlarged only the organ console to about 5 times its actual size, making it much more distinct in the cavern. The crowd of people in front of it tends to disappear because of the dark lighting. So I think this works.
Absolutely.
Another possibility in the next photo, and this one is very dependent on luck, is to be alert for a momentary light trick, such as this one. The famous Sagrada Familia Cathedral in Barcelona has been photographed many times from every possible angle and in many types of lighting. Still, until now, no one but me has caught an apparent Godzilla attacking the church. It turns out it is under extensive repair, and a simple scaffold just happened to appear at the right orientation and with the exact sun angle to cast this very deceptive shadow. Totally unreal, of course, but I love it.
Mm.
Moving on, in a Spanish botanical garden, the only one in the world devoted to palm trees, good photos are very rare. The trees are much too large and too crowded together. So I settled for another rare bird, an albino peacock. Any photo of this bird would be at least interesting. It's a different matter to make the photo dramatic. On the left is a plain photo I got by being patient until the creature appeared to strike just the right pose. Still, I found that image flat and dull. With proper cropping, the bird stands out more clearly from the trees. Next picture, adjusting the coloring of the bark of the tree to the left, added balance to the overall image for a more dramatic, almost three-dimensional effect as seen in this final product. Now to Singapore. Singapore is one of the most fascinating places to visit in the whole world. It is amazingly colorful, crowded, and diverse with many, many attractions. Trying to capture that spirit, I decided on this amazing statue of the Singapore monkey god, bestowing his benevolent blessings on the world. Unfortunately, the lighting darkened the face in such a way that he appeared somewhat malevolent, exactly the opposite. Also, my wife, Terry, almost disappeared against the great size of the statue. No problem. Adobe Photoshop made her about 3 times taller than she actually is, and also shone enough light on the statue so we can see his kind face exactly as the artist intended.
Mm.
A very different type of artist is Dale Chihuly, a renowned artist working in the very unusual medium of blown glass. His amazing work can be seen in many venues in the US and around the world. Many of his works are also available on the internet. You may want to look there. But as far as I know, this one, it doesn't appear in other than in a particular location in Seattle. I particularly love it for the subtle suggestion of rhythmic motion among the intriguing shapes. So I call it Chihuly Ballet.
Oh, that's a perfect title. All right.
Thank you.
Now we have this
Amazing art may exist where you least expect it, like in a wall lamp. This one was in our Sheraton hotel room in Seattle, Washington. As a fan of scientific cosmology, I see in this a depiction of the formation of the planet Saturn uh, with its rings fully intact and not yet starting to collapse into the body of the planet, as is happening now in reality.
Mm.
Even without the science, I find this a very attractive display. Now, museum art can intersect with the photographic challenge of portraiture. This is a picture of one of the famed Chinese terracotta warriors on loan to the Smithsonian. Although more than 8,000 such statues were created, each one is a depiction of a single unique individual person. The local museum display naturally consisted of only a very few items. I decided the uniqueness of each individual was more interesting than any grouping of them. Therefore, I cropped out everything around this gentleman to emphasize his individuality. Now that brings me to my general problem with portraits. As I see it, the uniqueness of famous portraits is diminished by the unimaginative settings, have nothing unusual around the subject except perhaps a few common household objects or pets. When I get a good picture of my lovely wife, Turkian, it is usually in some common setting with us in the center of the picture, as this during the visit to Yale for the reunion. These are treasured family souvenirs, of course, but hardly portrait art. Many artists and photographers have recognized this problem and come up with various solutions. I was looking for something different when this next image suddenly struck me right in our apartment.
Mm.
I call this one Two Amazing Works of Art.
Aw, that's
The,
perfect.
the painting is by American artist Howard Behrens, who has been called the American Monet.
Mm.
The rest of my display for today shows scenes of the Vincent Hall campus with an emphasis on the willow oak tree and perhaps a little humor added. For drama, I decided to surprise you viewers with the fact that even the Arleigh Burke parking lot can contribute to a beautiful scene. Look at this in detail. Like it? Terry and I do.
I do too.
Next, Mel assigned me to get various views of the marvelous willow oak tree. This one is in springtime, and it also shows the Kathy Martin Community Building in good light. This is from our balcony, as was the sunset photo just before.
Mm.
My absolute favorite is the next one, the plain black and white winter tree image, reminiscent of Ansel Adams' great work with trees. It has been significantly enhanced with lighting effects in Adobe Photoshop. Next, Mel also wanted me to get a shot highlighting the dramatic patterns in the bark of the tree, but I really disliked the initial result. It was too dull and boring for my taste. My solution was to dig up photographically some blooming azaleas from another part of the campus and transplant them with Photoshop around the tree. With such artificial adornment, I like it much better.
I agree.
My final image is a joke. I call this Lovely Trees Around Our Swimming Pool. You may look at it and say, what swimming pool? I don't see any swimming pool. Oh, yes, it is right there inside the building in the center of the picture.
Right there. Yep.
So that is it for my photography for today. Now back to Mel.
Thank you so much, John. Those were incredible images, and I enjoy your unique perspective And your sense of humor. I think it does come through.
Thank you. Thank you. I like my photography like my life, to have something really interesting in it and also pleasant. And so humor is an important addition
Oh,
from my point of view.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I hope everybody had a chance to really absorb this work. And of course, they'll get to see it again as we move on in the slideshow after the interview. So, any final thoughts for everyone?
Only that anyone who has an uh, a desire to show some talent, but no apparent uh, capability to display that talent is missing out on something. If you want to do it, the talent is there inside you. You just have to find it. And if, like me, you can't find it inside yourself, or even with some convenient things that you might buy, it, try going to the art center. I suspect that Mel can help you to bring out that underlying talent that is inside you and just waiting to be discovered.
Oh, well, I'm certainly glad you joined our photography group for sure. We have a really fun Wednesday group, I think.
Yes, yes.
Oh, well, thank you again. And I appreciate you and Terry both being such an integral part of our art center.
Great. We love it too.
Thank you again, John, for sharing some of your life's journeys and interests and your unique perspective that has allowed us to enjoy your take in photography and the ideas that you've become so adept at expressing through Photoshop and using your equipment, even if it is a cell phone. And I want to point out to everyone watching that cell phones are great cameras now, and you can get some beautiful images. So if what's holding you back from trying the photography class is I don't have a camera, you just need a cell phone, something that you can record images on. So the slides that follow will give you another chance to enjoy John's work. I appreciate everyone tuning in, and I will see you next week with another featured artist.